as Cameron Meyer made it back-to-back victories. The green and gold jersey on the shoulders of Cameron Meyer, the silver medal to Kel O'Brien, the bronze going to Scott Bowden.
It's the Wednesday after the Nationals, and in about 2 minutes' time, all going well, Cam Meyer will join me, and I'm going to do a little interview about his second successive win in Buninyong. We've talked about it already with Kel O'Brien, who was the runner-up in the elite men's road race. Cam Meyer timed a sprint to absolute perfection, and then he gave a fantastic speech to SBS after crossing the line and explained that he just really didn't understand how it happened. We've talked about it before with Kel and explained that, you know, in a road race anything can happen, and Luke Durbridge actually made it happen, if I could be so bold as to say that. Here he is, he just tied up, and look at that.
Hi, Rob.
Ta-da, perfect. Exactly on time. Actually, you're a minute early. Do you want to go and grab a cup?
No, I'm all good.
Okay, we're recording already. I've just done a little intro, just expecting and that you would be bang on time, and you are, so thanks very much.
No worries.
And as I've done with all of these video interviews that I've done so far, so I've spoken with Sarah Giganti, Luke Platt, Luke Durbridge, and then Kel O'Brien, and I've started all of them with this, and I'll do the same for you. Congratulations. What a race,
Cheers. It was definitely a strange one. I think it'll be remembered for a fair while for many different reasons. Just not being able to pick the winner, I think, was the most interesting part. So it was a bit of a nail biting finish, and I'm just lucky to be on the good end of it.
I mean, Buninyong tends to be a bit like that, doesn't it? Where it's a bit of a magical mystery tour for 5 painful hours or less, all going well. Was it a fast race this year? You've won it before, so you know what it's like. Did it feel more intense, or was it different because of the different kind of field, let's say?
Yeah, it was definitely a different race. It was fast. It was about I think it was 9 minutes quicker than last year, so significantly quicker. I think there was one big contributing factor, and that was that the weather was colder. And with the weather being colder, guys weren't afraid to put power out and attack the race, rather than if we normally get a 30+ degree day on Buninyong. The road temperature on Buninyong then feels like 35, and you really only have a couple of attacks with you every time you do a significant move, go to the front, do an attack, or be it the pressure goes on the climb, your heart rate goes so much higher, you struggle to compose yourself. Whereas with the colder weather, guys just weren't afraid to have a go. And you could see, I think, with the lower numbers that we had as a team, we didn't have control of the race, and guys saw that and tried to take advantage of it. So it made it definitely a fast race from start to finish. And you saw guys come unstuck right there in the final, and made for a very entertaining last hour.
It was really, really great to watch, especially, like you said, the anticipation. Like, how can this end? Especially with Kel O'Brien going the way he was. I mean, do you want to just put out a word to the runner-up, because you basically stole the race from him, didn't you? Did you see it happening like it did, or not?
No, I didn't. I couldn't pick how it was going to go in that last hour. And for someone like Kel, he put in a over the top ride, really. He did nearly everything he could have, and he probably loved to take that last 1.5K again. And I've been in a very similar situation a fair few times on that course, and I know he'll have a few sleepless nights, but he can still hold his head high that he really went out there and attacked the race. He did nearly everything perfectly, and I'm sure it's going to be only fire in the belly for someone like him going forward in the future, and you'll see him up there contesting for the win again in many years to come. And it's exciting for Australian cycling. I mean, young Luke Platt was not afraid to throw it out there with 60K to go, and the form he was on was really worrying for us as a World Tour squad, trying to peg him back. And you even had guys like Mark O'Brien, who's been a long time around on on the NRS Australian scene. Being able to attack in the final there, Scott Bowden, and Nick White, young up and coming. So it just wasn't the World Tour show. I know last year we went into the final last lap with 8 World Tour riders. Marcus Cooley, he was the only guy, but 7 other World Tour riders. So this year it was two World Tour riders in that last 8-man group and 6 Australian registered riders. So it was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and one of the World Tour riders who I really do want you to talk about, and you probably have talked a lot about him these last few days, is Mr. Durbridge. Like, is he unstoppable? Like, does he ever? You've known him a long time. You've grown up together over there, but that ride that he did to deliver you to the line, that was something exceptional, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was one of his all-time great domestique rides. I think he definitely saved me in that final. So he's an unbelievable engine, but it's not just what he can produce in power on the bike. It's his attitude and his commitment to a team member is second to none. He's there when you really need him. He isn't thinking of himself at those critical moments. He would have loved to have won that race, but he knew at the moment that coming down to the final, I was quicker than him to be able to produce the result. And the trust factor that we both have, I mean, we've grown up together for many years now, raced together on the same team. And that really probably is what won it for us, was the understanding between him and I. At 4 to go, we were having deep conversations about how we were going to do this. And he nearly said, he came to me and just backed me from 4 to go, even though I didn't feel good, and just nursed me through that last period of the race. And even when we were coming into that final in the last 5K, he just took so much of that pressure that I didn't have to think. I knew any of those flyers, like James Whelan tried to attack, Kel O'Brien there right at the end, that Luke was there to cover any of it and keep the speed high, and I could concentrate on my job, and that my job was inside that last 200 metres. So that trust aspect of knowing that Luke Durbridge is going to look after me is something special. And again, he just showed why he's probably one of the best teammates you can have in the world.
Yeah, that's great appraise. A good overview. I mean, we've talked a bit about the little bit of racing that's happened in Australia. When do you take off? Have you got a departure day, or what's the plan for the rest of the year? Can you just give us an overview?
Yeah, I'm a little bit later than the rest of the guys. Most of my teammates take off this week or have taken off today or yesterday to Europe, and their programs are opening weekend, say for like an Alex Edmondson and Luke Durbridge, or a Paris-Nice for Lucas Hamilton. I think Caden Groves is on a UAE tour. I'm a little bit different. I've still got one hand in the track commitments, and I'm here for a few more weeks just to get some more track training in with the Australian national team. And I do the Melbourne Warrnambool coming up in 3 days' time, which is exciting. My first Melbourne Warrnambool. So that'll be interesting. And then I'll take off to Europe about mid-March. Couple of races, Coppa Bartoli in Italy, through the Alps as preparation races. And at this stage, I'm on for the Giro. So my first part of the season is actually quite jam-packed with a fair bit of racing and commitments. And then post that, we'll see how Tokyo's going, my selection, where that stands. And if the games go ahead, then possibly I'll be there in Tokyo to contest some of the track races.
Well, you've raised the magic word, Tokyo. A couple of questions. First of all, I thought we'd be talking when selection of the teams were announced last year, but it didn't really there's no need. We're talking again, and there's obviously going to be a different selection be announced in the coming God knows when. Why didn't you make the cut in 2020, and will you make the cut in 2021? And can you talk about that, or is it just a bit too awkward?
No, I can talk about it. It's there was 5 track riders named, and that happened just as the pandemic was basically kicking off, and you're allowed a 6th rider to ride the track, but they have to do another discipline, i.e. mountain bike, BMX or road. The only rider that really fits that mold to be able to ride the road race and also cross over to the track is myself in that group. So the road team was meant to be selected in April. That got put on hold because of the pandemic. The season was called off. They halted the selection of the road team, and it got postponed to April this year. So all things going well, if my training keeps going right, we feel that I'm in a position to be able to contest the Madison and plus possibly the Omnium as a medal contender. Then I will get selected, hopefully in the road team, to be able to contest the road race and help out whoever our leaders are there. And 10 days later, contest the 2 or 1 track event. So that is the plan. If I can continue on my path, do some good training over the next 5 weeks with the Australian team, keep showing that I'm improving on the track and that I'm a worthwhile selection, then it should go ahead in April, and fingers crossed that's the way it pans out.
Bloody confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's confusing.
And then the second question, obviously, and I have to raise it, like, do you think he'll be going to Japan? Like, let's say you get selected, do you think it'll be on?
Probably asked me a month ago, I would have said no. I think what comes out at the moment from different media sources, and that really throws the athletes out a little bit at the moment. We see some of the negative stuff that might be written from people who think it's not on, and it might be a high profile person. And then all of a sudden the IOC will come over the top of that and say, no, we're still going ahead. So the latest playbooks that have come out are showing the way in which these games are going to be run with COVID. And it's sounding like they are putting all the precautions in place to be able to get the games off and running, even with the pandemic. And there's a lot of strict rules in terms of how we've got to do it. 14 days prior to going, we're basically monitoring every bit of our movements. And when we get there, we'll be tested a fair amount and have a lot of rules and restrictions in place. So it looks like they're trying to at least get the competitions done, and I would probably say it's more looking likely, just off what I know from the last few weeks with the playbooks that have been released. But fingers crossed, this pandemic can throw curveballs out every week, so anything that hits Japan could call it off again. So we don't actually know until a month out,
or a day or two before. I mean, it's a rotten time to do a lot of jobs, but to be a pro athlete in 2021 must be really traumatic. But insofar that there's just so much uncertainty.
It's definitely a little bit stressful in the sporting industry, and things aren't as simple anymore. And the amount of COVID tests I've had over the past year is ridiculous. I know how the French do it. I know how the Italians do it. I know how the Australians do it. And they all have a different swab, and they all stick it up the nose a little bit further than someone else. And yeah, I've had plenty of my share of the COVID and understand how it works, but it's not pleasant any time you have to do it.
And have you personally been free of it? Have you been affected? Does someone you know have it?
Yeah, I was a part of the Giro team, and last year with Bike Exchange, Mitchell and Scott that year, and yeah, it wasn't pretty. It was a very hard week for us. We went in as one of the favourites, with Simon having won Tirreno, and it just unravelled. He unfortunately caught COVID 5 days in, and then we continued on getting tested every single day. And basically in the peloton, people didn't want to come near us. And 3 days we had negative tests, and then all of a sudden on the rest day, 4 of our staff members went positive, and that was it. We were out of the race and straight into isolation, and I did 3.5 weeks of isolation straight after that, which wasn't too pleasant. So yeah, I've definitely had my fair share of close contacts with COVID.
And I just sort of came in thinking we'd be talking about the Nationals. We covered that pretty well.
Yeah.
There's new bikes, and you've been on Scott for 100 years, and now you're riding a Bianchi. Can you just talk to me a little bit about the change in equipment and try and give it an overview, your feelings on the first few months of riding it?
Yeah, it's a fair big change, and it's been a little bit of a stressful period, obviously, with COVID. It wasn't easy to get bikes and get equipment, as you probably heard from many retailers and many companies, and the struggles that are going on with trying to get actual product. And so I was part of the group that came back to Australia early because the Giro we had ended early and didn't get to finish it. So I got my bike quite late. I needed a few parts changed. So I'm still trying to get quite dialed in on the bike, and probably need to wait till I get to Europe to get more on it. I've only tried the Specialismo, which is their new climbing bike. It is very light, and I can't tell you what the Ultra is like. I can't tell you what the time trials like. So I've ridden them, but obviously it won me a national title, so it must go all right. Even though I'm still trying to get quite a little bit more dialed on it, and I just know that it's a light bike. It's a little bit different to the Scott, which had a bit of a crossover from aerodynamics, where they joined the foil aeroness to the front end of the Addict, and this one is really a specialized climbing bike. So it did me well up Buninyong. Well, even though I wasn't great legs wise on Buninyong climb, it got me around the course, and I've had the first win on a Specialismo for the team, which is pretty cool.
And when you say you're trying to get it dialed, what tweaks and changes are you making? Is it
just saddles? We've gone to physique saddles, vision bars. So I actually ran round drop bars last year with the Scott integrated head stem bar combo, whereas Vision have a little bit more of a compact bar rather than a classic style bar. So just tiny little things like that, where us bike riders, I'd been on Scott for many years, that just changing those saddle products or those handbar products just makes the feeling a little bit differently on your setup. So it's just trying to get those lengths right, and if you don't have that right as a pro bike rider, you don't feel the frame just as well, because you feel like you're a little bit out of sorts. And I was just trying to get that dialed. And I know from Tour Down Under, I had a few things change. I changed handlebars going into the national championships straight after the Santos Festival. So I did make some changes from head stem, saddle and bars from the Santos Festival to the nationals. So I had a few changes there, and I feel definitely more comfortable on the new bike at nationals, and I was able to definitely go a better performance than I was doing at the Santos Festival.
Oh, that's interesting. So touch points still win out in the end. You know, people can talk about carbon layup and stiffness and comfort, and frankly, a lot of bullshit a lot of the time. But it's the touch points that really do matter. Saddle, how you hold the handlebars, this sort of stuff.
Yeah, certainly.
That's really interesting. I mean, on handlebars, you're a great guy to talk to, because you've had a signature edition made by 3T many years ago. Are you still riding in that stance when you're doing your super duper efforts and points races and the like?
I am, but they restricted me a lot more, the UCI. You're not allowed over 5 centimeters over the front axle of the wheel from with the handlebars. So my 3T bars are out because they are way too long. You'd have to run them with like a 30 mil head stem, which wouldn't work too well. So yeah, I can't do it as efficiently as I did back then, but I still do run over the top of the bars when I'm riding the track. And the track has changed quite a bit. There's some new products out there, and trying to keep up with that I'm finding difficult these days. There's products everywhere galore with the Olympics coming up.
Well, I was just going to say that the Olympics, it always changes things up. Luke told us about experimenting with the 70 tooth, and I don't know what it would have been at the back, but I can do the maths if I felt like it. But bloody big gears, bloody big revolution is, and as a bike rider, are you noticing changes like, do you sort of, when the UCI changed the rules and you couldn't use your track bars, did you cry in your soup and think, bugger, I've lost the opportunity to do more points race world titles?
I just find that if you're away from the track a little bit longer, your distance you struggle a little bit when you jump back on to catch back up. And that's not just with the training that's changed, it's also the equipment side of things. The track is going warp speed with chain rings, with handlebars, with wheels, with aerodynamic skin suits. It's crazy the development that is on the track for the 100th of a second that you're trying to find. So each time I do come back, I'm like, whoa, I've got to spend. Before I thought it was just about training. I'd get behind the motorbike, go 60k an hour and rip into it, and you'd quickly find your position and get on with it. Whereas now you need to put days aside to get your carbon shoes molded. You need the carbon handlebars. You need 3D printing for your skin suits. There's you need to be trialing different chainring combinations that aren't just about the pressure or how big the gear is. It's also about the feel. What's the feel of a 50 chainring compared to a 70 chainring? There's different feelings. So it's a different world on the track, and the more time you spend apart, the harder it is to catch back up a little bit.
Oh, that's great. I'm aware of the time, Cam. I know we're talking for 22 minutes already, but and we probably should dog it on the head. You've got things to do, and probably handlebars to test and bikes to manipulate. But we've covered a lot of territory. Thanks very much for taking some time to explain a lot of detail that we didn't have before. It's a pleasure to catch up. It's great to watch you racing. I hope we get to see more of that happening. But, you know, like everyone, we'll just sit and watch this space, I suppose. But let's agree to stay in touch if we could. And I wish you all the best for the rest of what's becoming a magical mystery season.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Look forward to the next races, and hopefully I can show the green gold off a little bit more this season than last.
Yeah, and you've got 300 long kilometres ahead of you on the weekend, so all the best there.
That's right. Thank you.
Should be fun.
Yeah.
All right, man. If you've got any other stories to tell, make sure you keep in touch, and I look forward to hearing more about the Cam Meyer story that just seems to be ever evolving.
Perfect. Thank you. See you.
Cool. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Bye.